welcome to the House of War. Today on Breaking Chains, Becky is going to share with us an update on her favorite country in Asia.
That's really hard to do with all the countries of the world, 55, over 80 that I've traveled in. But I think I usually tell people Thailand is my favorite country in Asia. They are just an extravagant culture. They are beautiful people. They are largely Buddhist in religion, and so they're very peace-loving and kind and gentle by nature and by disposition. And they just have such a diverse and fascinating culture, and they're very ornate in how they decorate, and they use a lot of gilding. And so they're just very, very beautiful and elegant as a people.
Yes. I think one of my favorite things when I was over in Thailand on Circle Tour, it's hard to pick a favorite, like you said, but I loved the just the beautiful country, like the landscapes, the architecture, you know, the city lights in the evening. Those are all very beautiful to me.
Yes, it's a lot of contrast, a lot of diversity. You could be in the city, the capital city, and you have a very international feeling with a lot of, you know, international people groups. And then you can go an hour, 2 hours away to Chiang Mai, and you're in a rural area with hills and rivers and lakes and rice paddies and a very rural feeling. And so it's just very diverse. You have lots of beaches, beautiful, beautiful beaches, and snorkeling and sea life. And so there's a reason why Thailand is the Cancun of Asia. It's why everybody goes there for vacationing. And it's just a very beautiful country, the topography and everything about it. Yep.
Yes. So I know we have multiple partners in Thailand, and I understand that each safe house differs a bit in their emphasis. Could you explain that in a bit more detail?
So a safe house is literally where rescued men and women are brought. So this is women who are in captivity or men, and we have programs for both, mostly women. But they vary widely based on who the director is. And so when we do the Circle Tour, we go to a different safe house every morning in the city of Bangkok. And based on what that director's gifts and talents and interests are, they will tend to focus. So one safe house will emphasize community development. And they'll find out that 90% of the girls from a specific remote village are being raised to think they have to come to the city and be forced into prostitution. And so when we hear that, then we go back to that village. So this particular safe house sends their men and women back to that village. They send their graduates back to that village, and they started mushroom farming and cosmetology and sewing academy. And so their focus tends to be more community development related. Another safe house, their focus will be job training. And so they'll be very diverse and very intentional about getting women skills such as barista skills in a cafe, or jewelry, or different kinds of skill sets where they can get a job with dignity. Another one, their focus will be children. And so there's a safe house where the woman had worked in many, as a psychologist, had worked in many safe houses and realized that nobody was paying attention to the children born to the red light district. And so she deliberately started a safe house where it's really like a daycare. And the moms from the red light districts bring their daughters and sons, children there in the morning or whenever they start working. And then in the evening or when they're done working, they come back to pick up their kids, and they're allowed to take a shower. And so they have a whole floor of showers because these women are not given a lot of opportunity. And people who have been trafficked and sold against their will into sexual slavery have very deliberate rituals around cleanliness. And so that's a form of outreach. And they're able to say, hey, after you take a shower, why don't you go on the top floor? And you can see there that we have a bakery, and we're teaching women to do flower decorating and jewelry making. And so each safe house tends to have a different focus. One of the safe houses made all the women part owners. So like a law firm or a medical practice, all the women in the program have ownership. And what happened then is they start caring about the pennies, and they start being very, very cost efficient, because it's not just a job and pay, but it's money they're saving toward their own future. And so I love that diversity, because everybody slices and dices it slightly differently. But the most important thing in all of them is they tend to focus on job skills. And so we know that over 90% of the women that get picked up in a police raid in Asia, in one country alone, and do not get job training and get sent home, are resold. And so you have to give a woman a way to make a living. And so whether it's a counseling, one safe house, their focus is counseling. And it's more, all of them have that as one of the things they offer, stitches and counseling and childcare, but that tends to be more their focus. And then there's a safe house that we partner with that rescues all male prostitutes. So they're called ladyboys in Thailand. And according to the Thai newspaper, 86% of all homosexual prostitutes are heterosexual men whose families have forced them into the industry. If a family is has all boys and no girls, they will take the boys to a monk and ask the monk which one has the spirit of a girl. And so as early as age 2, they may be raising one of their boys against his will, because they need a woman to support them, because in Thai culture, women are the ones expected to support. So outreach is true of all the safe houses and how they get women who come, but they tend to do them in different ways. The most popular or common method is going into the red light district 2-3 nights a week. And so you went on outreach, and we see when we're on circle tour how that's done. So our staff, even right now, because it's nighttime on the other side of the world, are faithfully invading the darkness, going, come to the light, and offering women a way to make a living. So we sit in the bars, we have to buy them a drink so that they can come sit at our table for 20 minutes off of whatever entertainment is going on in the room. And I have been sitting at tables where there was a baby under the table, drugged, with its eyes rolling back in its head because his mother brought that child to work to keep her eye on him. I've been offered babies on outreach. And probably one of the favorite stories that I have of the war world is the story of Tom. She was forced into the red light district. She was working jobs, many jobs, supporting her family, and they told her to go to the red light district and support them, and she said no. And so the third time they took her, dropped her there to be broken, and forced her into that world. And when our safe house came into her life and offered her a way out and a way to make a living with dignity, she jumped at it. And her mother wanted to know, what is going on? Why have you left that? I want to understand what you're doing. And so every safe house offers worship, and it's not required. It's just there as a resource. The women can go or not go. And she was in that room, and the mother came and listened. And when she came out, she said, who is this God that loves women? And so today there are 3 generations, the grandmother, the mother, and the daughter, all sitting there reunited. And it's one thing, it's precious to rescue a woman, but it's even more important, especially in Asia, where if you're not part of family, you're nothing, to see an entire generation, 3 generations of family all headed together in a different direction. And so that is one of the coolest things about the safe houses. If you stick with it long enough, you see real fruit. And what we do isn't rocket science. It's just loving people unconditionally and giving them a safe place. And so it's precious to me, as I've been at this for decades, to see the generational change. And that's what keeps me going and gives me great hope.
That's so wonderful to hear that, Becky. Thank you for sharing. So how does War International partner with the safe houses to rescue and restore individuals who have been forced into prostitution?
Well, technically prostitution is illegal in Thailand, but it is well over half of their national GNP, so nobody, it's very ubiquitous, it's everywhere, and you see it all over the place. But in that culture, girls are raised with the expectation that they will support their parents in their old age. Unlike most Western cultures or even Muslim cultures, where the expectation is the sons. In that culture, in the Buddhist culture, the son has to be a monk for a week, a weekend, a month, a year, life, his choice. But he can serve a short period of time, and he's done his spiritual duty for the family, where the girl is expected to support the family in their old age. And so it's called milk money. So because they raise their daughter, they have a ledger they keep of everything that she owes them that they have provided for her. And she knows that she has to pay that down when they need her help. And I've never seen one of these ledgers, but everybody tells me that they're true and they're real. And it just shows you in a culture where even your family expects things and holds a debt against you, why there is so much power then in that expectation in the family. And a trafficker steps right into that and forms a ledger of debt against them with what it took for him or her to traffic them, and their nasty costumes and their forced abortions, and everything is held against them. And so it sets them up for that. In fact, we went to a like a sight and sound show this last time we were in Thailand about their culture. And it was interesting because there were they showed heaven and hell. And they showed 5 things that you get punished for in hell. And the second one was disobeying your parents. And so when you believe in karma and you're sold, and then maybe you're rescued and sent home and you get resold, you truly believe, okay, this is my fault. I must have done something in my previous life that set me up for this. And so you give into it. I have observed in all the cultures of the world that every culture has some tradition or superstition or value set that is used against vulnerable people. Yes. We have those in our own culture. It has to do with the expectation of women looking perfect and Kardashian, and so those traits in our cultures are used against or used by people who abuse and predators. And so we defend their value, which is one of the reasons why we love to hold banquets for our women, whether they're the preventative program or the rescued women. And we just shower them and pamper them with an evening that is all about them, that costs them nothing. And to just reinforce how precious and valuable they inherently are.
Yes, exactly. So how does war help eliminate risk for those who are at risk of being exploited? We really work on attacking risk 2 ways, either curatively, where they're already in that situation and we have to give them a job or something immediately, in counseling and worth and dignity that they already have, they've just been denied, or preventatively. And so we are very passionate about preventative programs and allowing them ways to avoid falling into that trap. So an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So orphanages, not in America, we don't do orphanages here, but around the world. So we may have an orphanage in Thailand with 100+ girls, and they were all about to be sold. Something about their story said they were exponentially at risk. Maybe their sister was raped and they are now at risk, or maybe their sister was sold and now they're at risk. One orphanage has graduated 5 lawyers. So getting them an education. So the little boy that was brought to an orphanage safe house by his mother, who was trafficked when he was 4, is now in college getting an engineering degree. And the Pearl of Hope Women, so that's a preventative program where we train at-risk women
to make jewelry, and they have learned to train others. So they will hire and train women and then help them get their own little store and their own little business, even though it's a competitor, and they get it and they're passionate about it, and they surround them with, you know, benefits and all kinds of fun things. We have a lot of programs in the slums. And so one of our safe houses has a program on Saturdays in the slums where Tom goes and trains children and works with children in the slums. Another program lives, literally their wall is the wall of the slum. And they have thousands of children that come, and there's this precious, precious picture that I took of all their little shoes in a row as they're going into school and getting an education and learning to sew and tat, and we have cards that they have little doilies on and different things. So the village that Tom was from, when we took the Sewing Academy back there preventatively, and then the bookmark, this is a good example of another preventative program. These are all physically challenged people in Thailand who would be thrown away. And they make these beautiful metal bookmarks. And so just different ways to enter into their life, either where they're already at risk curatively or preventatively, whether they're a widow or an orphan or something about their story, so that we can enter in and give them a safe place to rewrite the story of their life.
So I see we have multiple products here. Is there anything you'd like to share about any of them that are here today?
Well, there's a lot of really cool things here, and as I shared already, this bookmark is a great preventative product made by at-risk physically challenged people. And then this one here, this beautiful beaded necklace with the silver bar, is made in Thailand by a program where they hire at-risk women. And Nee is one of our precious women who was trained by another one of our women and then allowed to set up her own business. And this, if you look at this closely, each little end is hand curled. It's a lot of labor. These are lapis lazuli, and she hires at-risk women and trains them as well. And then there's this fun leather necklace that can be tied like a choker or long with black pearls. All our pearls are real. Another Thailand program made this fun necklace here where there's this leaf. These are really valuable little stones on here. People don't know that, but they're teeny tiny faceted spinet and with that little gold leaf. And then one of my favorite programs is the Queen of Thailand's relative was worked for Chanel and Prada before she married into the royal family. And her proceeds go for breast cancer treatment in the slums of prevention and detection, and ours go for anti-trafficking. But after she was done raising her daughter, she went back into business, but didn't go back to the for-profit world, but started this nonprofit. And she designs each of these cards, and she hires women from the slums to hand paint each of these. And it's just so typical of Thai culture because it's so ornate, and yet it's so elegant. And just look at these baby girl and baby boy cards. She's just got a real knack for it. And I love the fact that this Christmas card has 3 elephants coming to the nativity scene, because Thais are all about elephants. They think they're good luck. And so it's just fun things there, and those are just some examples. And we have these 2 products. I think these are our giveaways. This is a bracelet made by La. So the safe house he's in trains men for a few weeks to make jewelry, and La made this bracelet and supports his siblings by the sale of them so that they don't end up where his mom ended up. Even while he's in college with an engineering degree on a war scholarship, he's making these bracelets and supporting his siblings. And then this is just a fun little keychain that kids put on their backpacks. And it's porcelain, a little porcelain doll. And we have them in all the different costumes of the Southeast Asian tribes that are targeted by the traffickers. And literally they dress like this. So the Safe House of 110 little girls that's graduated lawyers, when they have a special event or on Sundays, they literally look like this. And they are porcelain dolls. They're just adorable. And so I love it that this just features their national costume. And they know by looking at it what tribe it is, because it's kind of like a Scottish plaid where the tribal fabric tells them which tribe they're from. And so they're just adorable. They dress up like that, and they look like they're dressed up for a special occasion, and they are, and they're beautiful.
Well, thank you for sharing today, Becky. Thank you for joining us today on Breaking Chains. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe on YouTube. Be sure to comment below that you shared the video to be entered into this week's giveaway for a bracelet specially made by Law and for our little porcelain doll keychain. From our house to yours, this means war.